Have you ever stopped and wondered, what is that exact moment? You know, the precise instant a perfectly healthy cell in your body starts to go rogue and begins that terrifying journey toward becoming cancer? It's one of the biggest mysteries in science, and it all boils down to a single critical tipping point.
So, that's what we're going to dive into. What is that tipping point? What does it actually take to push a normal cell over the edge? Well, the answer is kind of fascinating. It's both shockingly simple and unbelievably complex all at once. All right, to get how things go so wrong, we've got to first appreciate how incredibly well they usually go right. So I want you to picture this with me. Think of every single one of your body's trillions of cells as its own little fortress. A super organized, secure, bustling city with walls, guards, and a really important command center. And deep inside that fortress, locked away in that command center, is the most precious thing in the whole city, the master plan. And that's your DNA. It is the genetic blueprint that has every single instruction for everything, how the cell should work, when it should grow, when it should just chill out. Protecting this blueprint, that is job number one. But here's the thing about this cellular fortress. It's not just sitting there peacefully. No way. It is under a massive, relentless siege every single day. And the attacks are coming from forces both outside and inside your own body.
The scale of this attack is it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. Scientists estimate that in just one of your cells, there can be up to 1 million individual molecular lesions. Okay, that's 1 million potential hits, potential damage events to your DNA's blueprint. Every single day. That number is just staggering.
So where is all this chaos coming from? You might actually be surprised. It's not all from some rare, scary source. The siege is coming from totally normal, everyday things. Like the simple act of your cells using oxygen to make energy, or, just enjoying a sunny day at the beach, getting a medical X-ray. Even tiny, simple mistakes that happen when your DNA just tries to copy itself. So you'd think, facing a constant million-hit-a-day assault, the fortress would just crumble, right? But it doesn't. And that's because our cells have this incredibly sophisticated defense system. Think of it like an elite guard whose only mission is to protect that DNA blueprint at all costs. Now, before we see how these guards work, we have to get one thing straight because it's absolutely crucial. Not all errors are the same. Most of those million daily hits, they result in something called DNA damage. Think of it like a typo on the blueprint, or maybe a coffee stain. It's a physical problem, sure, but you can fix it. A mutation, though, that's different. That's when the typo gets permanently saved into the master copy. It's a permanent change to the code itself, and that is way, way more dangerous. So the cell's first line of defense is its DNA repair crew, and I mean that literally. These are teams of proteins that are constantly patrolling the DNA blueprint. When they find a typo, a little bit of damage, they just spring into action. They spot it, they cut out the bad section, they use the other side of the DNA strand as a perfect template to fill in the right code, and then boom, they seal it all back up. It's this amazing microscopic repair job that happens thousands of times a day. Okay, but what if the damage is just too bad? What if the repair crews are overwhelmed? Well, the cell has this radical, almost heroic failsafe. It's called apoptosis, or programmed cell death. Essentially, the cell hits its own self-destruct button. It sacrifices itself to make absolutely sure that its damaged, potentially dangerous blueprint doesn't get passed on, protecting the whole body. It's the ultimate team player. So, if the fortress has these incredible defenses, repair crews, a self-destruct sequence, how does it ever fall? This, right here, is the tipping point. The fortress isn't beaten by that million-strong army attacking from the outside. It falls because of an inside job. And this is the whole key. Cancer doesn't start from that overwhelming storm of daily damage. It starts when a few very specific mutations manage to hit the genes that control the defense systems themselves. The errors corrupt the guards, they disable the repair crews, and they jam the self-destruct signals from the inside. For decades, this was the big question. Scientists argued, how many of these critical system-disabling mutations, they call them driver mutations, would it actually take? Hundreds? Maybe thousands? Well, the truth is way more specific and, honestly, a little scary. And there it is. Some incredible, groundbreaking research has shown that for most cancers, it only takes between 1 and 10. That's it. Just 1 to 10 of these specific driver mutations to kick a normal cell onto the path of becoming a tumor. Just a handful of the right kind of mistakes is all it takes to start the whole horrible cascade.
Dr. Peter Campbell, who was the lead author on that study, he summed it up perfectly. He said, "We have addressed a long-standing question. The answer is a small handful." After all that time wondering, the answer is just stunningly simple.
Now, this number isn't set in stone for every single cancer. It varies. For example, some cancers, like liver cancer, they're often driven by an average of just 4 key mutations. Others, like colorectal cancer, might need closer to 10. But the main takeaway here is still the same. We are talking about a very, very small number of catastrophic system failures.
So what happens when that small handful of driver mutations actually takes hold? Well, it's a complete system breakdown. The fortress just starts to crumble, but it's crumbling from the inside out.
Once the elite guard has been corrupted, those DNA repair crews, they just don't work right anymore. Errors start slipping through. That self-destruct signal, apoptosis, the cell just ignores it. And then, the most critical part, the mutations break the cell's off switch. The signal that tells it to stop dividing, and so the cell just starts to grow and divide, completely out of control, piling up more and more mistakes, until it finally forms a tumor. The fortress has officially fallen.
But you know what? This is where the story pivots. It turns from one of failure to one of real hope. Because understanding exactly how the inside job works, knowing the specific weak points, that's the key to fighting back.
I mean, think about it. When doctors can pinpoint the 1 to 10 specific mutations that are driving a patient's cancer, they're not fighting blind anymore. They literally have the blueprint of the enemy. This knowledge is an absolute game changer, and it is the foundation for a whole new generation of cancer treatments.
And this leads us right to the future, which is personalized medicine. The goal is to be able to sequence a patient's tumor, find that unique handful of driver mutations, and then use drugs that are specifically designed to attack the weaknesses created by those exact mutations. So instead of using a sledgehammer, it's like a surgical strike.
And that leaves us with this one last really powerful thought. By pinpointing this tiny number of changes that cause a cell to turn, we're closer than we have ever been to understanding cancer's true origin story. So the question becomes, if we're getting this good at reading the blueprint of the heist, how long is it going to be before we can stop it before it even starts?